Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, how are we doing today? How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the podcast. I'm with the boys. We got Grim. Nice. We got Yes. He's putting a thumbs up, but you guys can't see it. And then we have TheNovaNuclear. And of course, I am your favorite person in the world, the CurlyBardock. How's everyone doing today? How you guys doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm chilling, bro. It's been actually been a pretty relaxing day. Got not much to do. How about everyone else?
I'm doing pretty good myself. Nothing much happened. Came back from Dallas.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was pretty nice. It looked beautiful. Just COVID sucks, you know.
Yeah, I mean, how much restrictions are right now. It's really hard to just go anywhere. How about you? Yes, how's it been?
You can't just
Just
say
says
rap.
yes.
You don't have to.
Okay, I don't know if you wanted to do that.
It's
All right.
fine. Like we've already said it, so it's fine.
True.
My day's been going all right.
Cool.
Ready to get started.
All right, boys. So we're gonna start off with probably the biggest chungy wungy part of our podcast today, and that is the future of Spider-Man in cinema. So, obviously, by the way, spoilers for No Way Home. It's January 3rd. If you haven't watched No Way Home yet, please go watch No Way Home. It's a really good movie, and it's gonna pertain to a lot we're gonna talk about in today's show. It's the future of not only Tom Holland's Spider-Man, but also Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in cinema. And what is the future for these characters? What can they do? What other storylines can they adapt to the MCU? And what would we personally want to see? I'll start off. I personally really want to see how they're gonna do Venom. The way they introduced Venom was really weird. I think we mentioned that. Maybe not on the podcast, but when we were talking to each other, the way they introduced Venom was so weird. It just wasn't really that great, and I really want to see how the MCU does their own Venom story. What about you guys?
Pertaining to the MCU, I feel like this was a huge letdown. Because the way they dropped
Venom?
Yeah, like the way they just dropped him into No Way Home and then took him right out.
Yeah.
And, if you're someone who doesn't watch the end credit scenes, who was just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch Venom and I'm gonna watch Spider-Man, and you just didn't care about the end credit scenes. You had no idea he even existed in this movie. Like you had no idea. You just have no idea that Venom is in the MCU now. Like
yeah, that makes sense. It's kind of weird how they did it, and it was just really goofy.
it's kind of like, honestly, like it would have had the same level of I guess suspense if you had to just post like if you posted this on YouTube, it would have been like a 5-minute clip, and that would have been it.
Yeah.
Like literally, it was kind of like a non-intense way to just like squeeze him in there without like putting much story into it. It kind of felt like a little bit lazy, but
Yeah.
hopefully it plays out well, because it seems like, well, like it kind of seems like you have to do a reintroduction of Venom, especially into Tom Holland's Spider-Man, because he doesn't know who Venom is.
Yeah.
But I've heard online that, like, I think the director of Venom or something like that, or one of the writers, said that the reason that Venom would know who Spider-Man is because of the Venom hive mind.
Yeah.
Like that was confirmed, I think, but
Yeah.
I really don't know much about that, and I don't know. That'll be like interesting to see. I just hope it doesn't.
That was also part of the end credits scene. So if people watched Venom and didn't watch the end credits scene, they wouldn't know that. So that's also really weird.
Yeah, if you just didn't watch any of the end credit scenes for either movie, like for Venom or for Spider-Man No Way Home, you wouldn't understand.
Mhm.
You wouldn't even know Venom was in the movie, knows Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Like you wouldn't even make that connection.
Yeah.
Or like, well, it depends on the fan, because I imagine if you're just if you know Venom at all, if you know Venom from the original Spider-Man 3, then you'd be you'd automatically associate him with Tom Holland's Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes, but
I don't know. I feel like it's a weird connection, but I really want to see how they do it. I guess like they can always go with the Agent Venom route with Flash, but I don't think they would do that with this Flash, at least this version of Flash. So we'll see. Grim, what do you think? Give us a couple words.
I think Lewis should talk. He hasn't said anything yet.
Fair enough. Lewis, what do you think, man?
Uh,
What do you think
like Rob
about
said,
yeah?
Like Rob said, and continue what he says, I think this is just a lazy way out. You still have to reintroduce Venom, and I thought they could have done this a wholly complete different way than how they did it. They should have given him a new Venom symbiote. That should have been the first thing they should have done.
Yeah, this definitely wasn't one. Like, this was definitely one of the many like ways that they wanted to do this. Like, you can kind of tell watching it. Like, okay, they probably thought of different solutions, or probably thought of different ways they could have done this, and they decided on this one specifically.
I guess for them it's probably the simplest way they can introduce Venom into the MCU without having to redo his origins, right? And yeah, I guess sure you can do that, and I guess that can be fun, but then you still have to introduce him to Tom Holland's Spider. Like in universe, you have to introduce him to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. He has to be explained as to what it does, what it is. You know, I don't know. I feel like I agree with Lewis that there's going to need to be a reintroduction.
Plus, the
Yeah,
Venom
and not only
like it's just weird.
Yeah.
Go on though. Sorry.
it was like not only that, like what direction are they really thinking about going with this? Like you mentioned, Agent Venom, sure, but with this type of Flash, were they really thinking about Agent Venom with him?
It
Like,
might
I
not.
don't
It
really
might not
see that
even
happen.
be. It might not even be Flash. Honestly, I mean, with
Like,
continue.
it's like unless he does like what the actor for Ned did, like gets bulked out, I really don't see this happening.
I mean,
He's ready to go to like the character is ready to go to MIT. Like that's pretty much he's going to MIT. He's to the military, like in the comics.
I want to think about it in a way that we have we have these different organizations like Sword and Shield roaming around. I like to think that there could be a storyline where they implement Nick Fury into testing the symbiote that they find in Mexico to be used as like a weapon, like as most things that Shields find in the fucking deserted area should.
Yeah, the OA4s.
Yeah,
If,
and just
if
make
anybody knows about the Insta Shield series,
yeah.
the 084, they just randomly pick up. They pick up like extra, like, well, items of unknown origin is what they say.
Yeah.
And you just kind of pick them up and like wait for them to appear in the story later.
Yeah, I mean it's sort of like that.
Could play out.
Yeah, I feel like some shape, way, or form. I feel like they can do different things with Venom. I feel like they can do like, oh, he can be a soldier of Shield and suddenly go berserk, or it can sort of been like this thing where it's less of a force of evil, but more of a force for good, but never really shows up that much. I don't know. The future of Venom in the MCU is very unknown, and I really want to see how they do with that. So next topic I want to bring up is Craven the Hunter. We've had a lot of big Spider-Man villains introduced into the MCU, or at least onto theaters already. So we've had Doc Ock, we had Electro, we've had the Vulture, we had Green Goblin, we had almost all of Spider-Man's major villains except Craven the Hunter, which is a part of the original Sinister Six, you know? So I think I would like to see a version of Craven the Hunter doing like sort of like the hunt for Spider-Man. I think there's like one story in particular that I recently looked over.
The Last Hunt?
Yes, Craven's Last
Hunt,
which is proclaimed to be one of the best Spider-Man stories and one of the darkest Spider-Man stories. I think that would be cool to have, like, where instead of Spider-Man is like just the main character, it's like him and Craven sharing a spotlight and sort of the duality of life and death. I think that's really cool. And I think that could be cool to have in the MCU, but I would like to see Craven in more than just one movie. Maybe that's too much to ask for, but I would like to see him in at least one.
The thing is, we don't even really know the Craven the Hunter is connected to Spider-Man, like, and at least Tom Holland Spider-Man. We don't know because like didn't they cast Aaron Taylor Johnson like the
Yes, like
the
for
kind
his
of
own
like
solo
Quicksilver?
movie.
So
Yeah,
there's
like for
Hmm.
they casted Aaron
Like
Taylor Johnson
that's
as
confirmed. Like that's
as
not even a
Quicksilver
rumor
as
anymore.
Craven.
That's
Yeah,
confirmed.
like they actually
That's
confirmed.
confirmed.
I mean,
So they could put him in like two. They're probably he's probably gonna end up being in the same universe as as Venom
The
and I
Venom.
guess Morbius probably
And this is what I hate about the Sony verse is that you're really introducing good characters, and I really like what they're planning. It's just that if you're trying to put that into the Spider-Man film, it's really hard because you're just going to reintroduce them, like similar to what we said to Venom.
you don't have to
You're-
do that. I mean, there's tons of
No,
speculation
but
with like the
because of this
Morbius.
because of this character and being Aaron Taylor Johnson, you have to reintroduce him because that just
yeah,
messes up
because
the
like
whole
you know
MCU.
him. Yeah, because you just know that him as like Quicksilver, and then he shows up again as like Craven the Hunter. It's just kind of weird.
No, so
like,
so this is gonna be a Sony project. It's not with like Marvel Studios, right?
No,
yeah, this
yeah,
is
it's
most
a
likely not going
Sony
to be.
product.
This is probably not going to be MCU.
But I think that's
Like-
okay. I feel like if it's not Tom Holland Spider-Man, then I feel like it can just be one of the other two. You know, I feel like it could be Andrew's or Toby's.
That
Yeah, because
that's
they opened the
that's
door
what
for
I
Andrew
hope
Garfield.
for.
Yeah,
That's
because
what
they
I
opened the
hope
door
for.
for Andrew Garfield, it's definitely better. Like it definitely is like, I guess it's to me at least, it becomes more acceptable. It's like you're trying to disarray the confusion
Mhm.
that you just created, like with all these announcements before you know that, like before you knew Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire was coming back for Spider-Man: No Way Home, like all of these announcements, all of these speculation, like about new Spider-Man villain movies, like you're kind of just in the dark, like okay, wait, what about Tom? Like, is this including Tom Holland Spider-Man? Because this doesn't really seem likely.
Yeah.
And then like now that Andrew Garfield's and now that rumors surrounding Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire coming back again, like it would actually like it would be easier to explain for one thing, and it would just be I guess better as a viewer like to experience that instead of like associating um every announcement to Tom Holland Spider-Man, because that's kind of like what we've been doing for like the last year when they came out with the news for Craven.
True. I think for me, I feel like I would like to see if like let's say we can use one of the three Spider-Men for this like sort of plot point or like the story. I would like to see Toby Spider-Man versus Craven rather than Andrew or Tom's, because I feel like it makes more sense. Like
They have
in
an experience Spider-Man.
yeah, because like to me, I feel like let's say Craven has this whole solo movie. He goes on his journey. He's like, now I need to do my biggest hunt ever. He's been in New York City for years. He's running as the prime, like the apex predator of New York City, and I want to hunt him down. And it would be so cool if it was Toby Spider-Man. It's also, I think, for Toby as a like I guess sort of a person, because like in The Last Hunt, it tests Spider-Man's like I guess sort of will to like not fall to darkness, and like his will to live a happy life with MJ. And I think the best person to do that with is Tobey Maguire, because you know it's said in No Way Home that him and MJ are patching up and everything.
Yeah, it's because like of Craven kind of being ready to dismantle, I guess, the stability of Peter Parker's life. It would make more sense for it to or be someone to be the Peter Parker that's stable and like experienced,
Yeah.
instead of like the two other ones that are kind of just figuring themselves out still.
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
I
I
agree
really
with
want to
that.
see Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. Like if they do pair it up with Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, I'd really love to see that, because like it seems like we know nothing about Andrew Garfield's like Spider-Man universe at all, and like you really don't know where he's been for the last couple of years. You really don't know, like all you know is that he's a different Spider-Man than when before Gwen died. Like he's different than the last time we've seen him, and
Mhm.
we really don't know what like the details of events that have happened to him. And I feel like Craven the Hunter, like adding more pressure to that, I feel like it adds more intensity to his story.
Grim, I know you've been kind of silent. What do you think about
Louis,
the story point?
Louis wanted to talk, but Raph kind of went over him, so I kind of want to hear what Louis wanted to say.
Yeah, that's my
Okay.
bad.
Okay.
I was gonna say the same thing like Ralph did. Like it does sound like a good story as a Toby storyline. Like that completely fits. But however, Sony's trying to play it, and most likely Craven's gonna have that same theme like Venom has or Morbius is going to have. It's going to directly lead to Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man. That and him just saying like, "Oh, I'm not pulling back my punches," showing that he's using his full-on strength makes it seem like Craven wants him to use it. Similar to what we saw with Tom Holland using his strength against Goblin, him like just liking it. I think we will have a similar scene towards that with Andrew and Craven doing that.
I don't know if it would be. I don't know if like.
I don't think it.
I don't think it's Craven trying to push him. I think it's just him being depressed.
No, I'm not saying that he's going to be pushing him. I say that it's going to be a similar scene. How he wants him to use all his might because he wants to know that he defeated Spider-Man at his best.
Okay.
And making sure he beats him at his best.
Got you. All right. Yeah, I guess that also is like a point that we can make, that like it's Craven that teaches Andrew how to push away from the darkness and like focus on life and what's important about his life and what's important about moving forward. I think that's pretty cool. That's actually a really interesting idea to spin it towards for Andrew. I just think Craven
because
itself.
that plays into Craven's like personality, like, at least from the comics. That's actually a really good point, though, Lewis.
Yeah, Craven itself is just an interesting character, and I would definitely like to see him more. Because, like, I don't know, I feel like when it comes to Spider-Man villains that we've had, there's only a few standout villains that have that sort of complexity that I would want to see. Because we have, like, Green Goblin, who's literally just insane. And that's probably his best driving character point. And what makes him such a great villain is that he's just pure evil, and he will do whatever he wants. And you also have like Dr. Octavius, who is like a complex morality, who is good and wants to do things for the improvement of science, but is inevitably doing things in a wrong way. I think Craven is gonna have like sort of just this like, I want to do things my way, but I have like a just morality for specific situations, which is cool. I like to see complex characters, and I would like to see Craven sort of be developed like that.
Yeah, plus from like at least what we've seen is he's from like Ultimate Spider-Man from comic books, it's like he's very ego driven. Like he's doing it for not just the thrill of the hunt, but also his pride.
Yeah.
I like that Lewis said that like wanting to defeat Spider-Man at his best, because that is at its core like Craven the Hunter, like knowing he won at his best. Like even though the hardest like most difficult challenge, he overcame it. That was a really good point.
Mm-hmm. All right, so the next thing I want to talk about when it comes to Spider-Man is sort of the introduction or reintroduction for MCU version of certain characters. So, this is already spoiled to me. Spoilers for, I believe, the end of Hawkeye, but the return of Kingpin of the Daredevil series Kingpin was confirmed. He's back. I would love to see him as a Spider-Man villain, truly. I think him and Black Cat, like reintroduction of Black Cat into the story. Well, I don't think even Black Cat wasn't even introduced as a character, right? In any of the other. No, Gwen's. Yep, that's right. I think the introduction of Black Cat and having Kingpin as a new main villain for Spider-Man would be really cool. I would love to see that.
Yeah, at the end of the film, like it shows that he's going to be taking more street level. We're not going to see no real big bad like another multiverse thing anytime soon. It's really going to be more street level. And I wouldn't be surprised the next film is going to be playing out simple. We're going to see another homecoming type of movie. He has a mentor of Daredevil. If you haven't seen the movie, he's in the movie. We're going to see Daredevil again as a mentor type. Like we saw Iron Man, showing him that this is actually what's happening in the underground world, and he's going to be introduced to Kingpin. I think he's going to be a big bad. Not in the first film. It might be throughout the trilogy.
I don't know.
But I think Kingpin will have.
That'd be really cool.
I don't know what happens at the end of Daredevil or the end of Hawkeye, but what I've heard is that like, sort of like this thing of where Kingpin now, after like that 5 years of people being vanished, has lost his empire, and is sort of having to start it from the beginning again. Am I correct? Am I wrong?
It's not really addressed.
That's just
It's not really addressed
not
in the show. It's not addressed in the show. It's the actor said that. I want to take his full full trust.
Mhm.
However, Marvel could always rewrite that, be like, "Hey, this is a new Kingpin." Like it's could always be changed. As of right
Yeah.
now, I want to believe him and think that this is actually the Kingpin from the show because he was amazing in that show.
I wouldn't mind
however,
thinking that
Marvel does a lot of things.
I wouldn't mind that
Yeah,
it's.
because even
Oh, sorry.
the actor, I forget his name, Vincent. I don't remember his last
Yeah,
name. but,
Vincent
like,
O.
even-
Yeah,
yeah,
Vincent O.
okay. When he tweeted out his response, I don't know. I saw it from a tweet, but his response was like very. His response to it being Kingpin from Netflix was like very. The way he worded it kind of just left holes in what he was saying. It was kind of like, "This is him as far as we know." As far as we know, but they could always change that.
I mean, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things I feel like they're gonna pull and like cherry pick from the Daredevil show that they want to be canon, like sort of story points and arcs in there that they want to like for to be effective for Daredevil, to be effective for Kingpin. But I wouldn't mind if this is like a new Kingpin and he is only at the beginning of starting his empire, you know? I think that would be pretty cool. But from the way it looks in Hawkeye, he already's been pretty established since before the snapped. Since he has like people like the was it the sweatpant mafia or like what's it called? I forget.
Yes, that's the Sweatpants Mafia. I think.
Sweatpants
No, it's
mafia.
Tracksuits.
Right, the tracksuits
Tracksuit.
like under his feet, and like most of New York sort of like under his control. I wouldn't mind seeing him starting again, and like having to humble himself into doing things that he might not normally do if he was still at the top.
Yeah, and we see a little glimpse of that, like in the TV show for Daredevil, like uh Wilson Fisk had this pin on the sleeve of his suit, and at the end of the show, we see that as well.
At the end of what?
So it
Hawkeye?
shows a little bit of Hawkeye, yes, of
Oh.
Hawkeye. We see a little resemblance of that specific moment that most of the people who watch Daredevil will know. Will know like that pin was a big significance to his character in that show. So I'm like, damn, they really show that. So that really makes me believe that it could be true. But like I've been thinking for a while now, it's gonna be a soft reboot. Like it's gonna have a similar story, but however, it's gonna be a completely different character.
It's most likely not going to
A
be
soft reboot.
It's definitely not 100% the same character, but it's going to be like similar.
Yeah.
Like, I like that they tried to pull in details, but like from watching the Hawkeye finale, it's like this is definitely like a much weaker version of Wilson Fisk than it was in Daredevil. Like we don't really know because of like it could be the rating of the TV shows difference, or like the level of power that Wilson Fisk has. Because in the Hawkeye show, like spoilers, but like he really kind of just seemed annoyed. Like he kind of seems like bothered by everything, like kind of like in a childish way, to where like it feels like he lost what's his, and he is just trying desperately to get it back. At least that's what from my perspective of the show. It really seems like it really seems like this Wilson Fisk is like it could be the Netflix one, but it definitely stuff was definitely taken away from him, because there's no way like he's that weak in Hawkeye, like, or in the Daredevil show. Like there's no way that he's this weak in the Daredevil show as well.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think it could be like the best thing be for like a soft reboot, like making the same character have a similar storyline. The blip happened, and like he's not the same Wilson Fisk, but something happened in that blip. Like he lost, I don't know, and he always had a love interest of Vanessa. He lost Vanessa and couldn't find her again.
I think like the blip is a good way to excuse his character. Like I heard another thing about like them saying like he blipped away and lost his empire. I think we said this
That
already.
could make
but,
a lot of sense, honestly.
Yeah.
like him losing a lot of the properties and losing a lot of respect while other people were trying to take over New York as well. I think if they whatever we have no idea what projects they're gonna do with Daredevil as well, but like if they have like a Daredevil reboot or a Daredevil series where they tackle that stuff with him, like
Well-
I feel like that would be cool.
Well,
And like,
Daredevil was supposed to be
Spider-Man
expected to come in a lot.
yeah, I'm looking forward to Daredevil, and especially because it takes place in New York. Like the potential for Spider-Man Daredevil reboots is just gonna be so cool, and especially like
Facts, and
with,
he's supposed to be an Echo as well.
yeah,
True,
I
Echo is also supposed
like-
to be there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
and
is he supposed to be an Echo?
Yeah,
Dude, that's
he's
sick.
There's
he's
rumors
not
that like
he's not in.
apparently he's in She-Hulk, isn't he?
Yes, he's also in Echo. He's supposed to be in there for 2 or 3 episodes. That's what I'm hearing. And for She-Hulk, it's the same thing, 2 to 1 episode.
So I guess
not
what
gonna be
they're
like a-
trying to do
I'm
with
more
his
excited to see him
character,
in Echo than She-Hulk, though.
I guess what they're trying to do with his character is just sort of like make him in all these little bits and pieces of the MCU to make him sort of more established. And then kind of like, I guess 2-3 years later, make his own solo project. I guess I am not sure. I don't know what's going on with this character. I just hope that one day we get
I'm
like
just
that
glad we're here.
Spider-Man
We're
team
just
up.
glad he's here. We're just glad he's
Yeah.
here. Like,
And it's
Him with
Charlie
Spider-Man-
Cox.
yeah, like dude,
Uh,
it'll be sick. When that team up comes out, it's amazing. It's gonna be amazing.
all right, Grim,
No, that's gonna be still.
Mr. Radio Silent for the last 30 minutes. What do you think about having Daredevil into sort of like a Daredevil Spider-Man team up in the future?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
It's I'm iffy because No Way Home, even though it's a fantastic movie personally wise, to the story it's kind of a shitty movie because everybody already forgot who Peter and Spider-Man are combined. So it's like now they have to retell all the stories and
Oh,
he
you're
has
right.
to start over. And so
Mhm.
how will because now Matt Murdock doesn't remember Peter Parker anymore. So
I mean, he didn't.
he's
Yeah.
gonna have to interact again from the beginning. You guys are like
Well,
forgetting that nobody
don't-
knows who Peter
well,
Parker
I
is.
don't think if Spider-Man and Daredevil meet, I think it'll be Spider-Man meeting Daredevil, not
It's not
Matt
like- yeah,
Murdock
like-
meeting Peter Parker
yeah.
again.
Yeah, but remember,
I'm
the
thinking
whole
not in that way.
personality- No, but remember the whole Daredevil personality is that he's not very trustworthy when he's Daredevil. He's not someone
And I think that's
teams up
Yeah.
with anybody, and so it would have been better if they if like everybody still knew well, not everybody, but like a certain amount of people knew that Peter Parker was still was Spider-Man, because that would instantly foreshadow that in the future Daredevil in his gear would be more trustworthy of Spider-Man, because the whole Daredevil thing is he doesn't trust anybody. He doesn't like working with just anybody who comes along. He doesn't give anybody the chance. So since he already, as Matt Murdock, worked with Peter Parker and he knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, it would be like, oh, like I've already worked with you. I know who you are, and I know that you mean good. So sure, we could team up.
Here's this argument. I understand your argument, but I feel like even though Matt Murdock, let's say no one ever forget Peter Parker was Spider-Man, right? I feel like Matt Murdock still wouldn't trust a child, what he perceives to be a literal fucking kid, to help him
Especially
in
one
any
with
sort of way.
charged with murder.
In the comics, he's like it's this interaction where Daredevil's reluctant to work with Spider-Man, but he already knows that Spider-Man means good and stuff like that. So he's sort of like, all right, you know what? It's this dilemma of I already know that we sort of have the same goal, and I sort of trust you from already seeing you work, and it's like we could do some team ups. And then Spider-Man's like, holy shit, like this is a whole new world of like just superheroism that I've never been before, because Matt Murdock works in like the darker parts of New York where the crime is not reported, where crime it's all over the world, it's all over its community, but it's not reported to the police, so nobody knows about it. It's not a Avengers level threat or a Spider-Man level threat. So when in the comics, when Spider-Man joins Daredevil, it's a bit of both of them trying to create a trust and stuff like that. And I just feel like they threw it out the window when just everybody forgot who.
I mean, when there's a will, there's a way. I feel like there's always a way to incorporate Spider-Man and Daredevil together and sort of have like a good relationship that
It's the same thing as Venom. They're doing the same thing as Venom. They use an already established relationship and then they threw it out the window and they're like, but don't worry, that relationship's coming back. It's just gonna be different. And so I think that's utter BS. Personally, I think he should have wished for everybody to forget Mysterio. I think that would have been easier. 'Cause,
yeah, I saw that meme all over online.
The worst part is like his own girlfriend, who they both love each other, said, "I don't want to forget you." He goes to the coffee shop and then he goes like, "You know what? Never mind." Like what? What happened to the love?
But that's growth. That's growth though, because he's showing
That's
that
not growth.
he's
That's
growing.
true.
That is growth. That's growth because he doesn't want her to get hurt again.
Oh my
Bro,
god.
That's the main. He put her in danger. And
But
he
nobody
saw
knows-
Personal growth and Spider-Man growth.
Nobody knows he's Peter Parker Spider-Man anymore, so he's not dangerous anymore. He's quite the opposite. He doesn't even have.
But Spider-Man is still dangerous. He's still gonna put her in that line of danger if someone will find out. Like the Vulture found
I
out
agree with Lewis.
Yeah.
I
that he's Spider-Man,
Yeah,
but
but
without him.
But that's the thing. When you're Mary Jane, you take that risk. In the fucking comics, she knew and she took the risk. In the fucking show, she jumped off a balcony in the old like TV show.
That was toxic
Jumped
as
off a
fuck.
balcony, and she's like, "You know what?
Yeah,
I
oh my
want
God.
you to save me." And
Don't use that example.
do that shit here. You're telling me that a fucking old cartoon could do that, but this fucking MCU built and established from like mid 2000s now.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we do not recommend you to
They
jump
show
off a
growth.
building to prove your love to someone. They will not catch you. They will not make it in time.
Please
Oh,
don't.
sure, Andrew Garfield.
Please not
I'm
jump
not
up a
saying-
building to
I'm not
confirm your
saying-
love.
Let's see,
I'm
Andrew
not
Garfield.
saying you do it. I'm saying she should.
Andrew Garfield, looking at this guy right now. He's watching the air right now.
All right. I think you guys make some
He has a
valid
50%
points.
chance rate.
So the next thing, and I guess the final thing I want to bring up about Spider-Man is, what do each of you want to see for Toby and Toby and Andrew Spider-Man specifically? I want to start with Lewis. Lewis, what do you want to see from Andrew and Toby Spider-Man? What do you want to see next for them?
So Toby, and in full honesty, his story's done. I don't think they should bring him back unless it's gonna be for like Secret Wars type things.
Mhm.
But if they have to put a movie for Toby, it has to involve Miles Morales. I think he's old enough to mentor Miles Morales and show him the way of the Spider-Man,
Yeah.
and throughout that. But besides that storyline, I think he should just be saved for Secret Wars or anything involving the multiverse.
What about Andrew?
In Andrew's case, Andrew should explore him actually finding love once again with Mary Jane. And not only that, he has multiple other villains. Like we can introduce the Chameleon and we were talking about Craven before. Those two villains could be pretty good for him to continue his saga of his vengefulness and toning himself back down to what he used to be throughout those movies. Through Chameleon doing that, his traumatic past with Gwen Stacy, because Chameleon could change his appearance to looking like anybody. Really could trigger his PTSD from Weapon Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
And Craven just bring out the best, the worst of him and the strength wise. Make him
Sort of like bring out
a
the
whole
viciousness
detox.
of Andrew's Spider-Man.
The viciousness of Spider-Man, and make him learn that I can't be this vicious. Me thinking I have to kill him is going into this the wrong way. Basically, what Tom Holland did in this movie.
Yeah,
Thinking
basically-
I have to kill Green Goblin.
Yeah.
Kill Green Goblin, but I actually cure him, and that's how I save the day.
Sort of like going through the same arc as like Tom Holland Spider-Man with the Goblin at the end of No Way Home, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Ralph, what would you want to see from Andrew and Toby? Because I believe the same like Lewis, you don't think Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man should be used all that often or even have his own movie after his third one.
Yeah, I don't think he should have another movie, to be honest with you. I really think that like Toby should kind of be done. Like let someone end with a happy ending. Like really just let one person. If it had to be one person to let with a happy ending, let it be Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, because that's already like well and done. I think Miles would actually be a cool idea, but I feel like, um, I don't know, like if you were to do it, exactly like how, like if you're doing, if you're gonna base it off of like how it was done in the Spider-Verse, I feel like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, like, is a kind of a counteracted because, Miles Morales' introduction was mainly like he had to carry, like, a big part of Miles Morales' upbringing as Spider-Man was that he had to carry the guilt of, um, Peter Parker, him being Peter Parker in his prime, like the best Spider-Man he was at the time, dying right in front of him, and him having to live up to that. But like with Toby's, it's kind of like, with Toby's, I feel like that would be more of like passing the torch. Like, okay, I think I'm done now. I'm about to retire. You take it
Yeah.
now.
So like he
Like,
like
I feel like
this
Well,
is
they
a,
could.
it's a different vibe.
They could play it all for like, oh, I'm teaching him and all that. And at the end of the movie, like Toby dies, and we can bring on that type of way, like show him how he's training him and all that. Making sure, and they
Yeah,
have this big fight with a villain. I don't know, the
I
King
find I
Goblin.
find this funny because this is actually the fucking plot to Spider-Verse. This is actually just
It's just more expanded.
I think this is just live action Spider-Verse we're talking. I think we actually
like
just want to
very
see
much.
live action Spider-Verse.
Pretty
Like,
much.
That's
That's
all
all.
we
It
want.
somewhat, yeah.
That's all.
That's
It's
great.
literally just in reverse. It's in reverse. It's
So
basically-
so
I
Ralph,
feel like
what do you want to see
I just
from
feel like Tobey
Andrew?
Maguire. I just feel like Tobey Maguire would be like, with Miles Morales would just be like, kind of just like an upbeat version of Spider-Verse. It really would just be like an upbeat, like, hey, I'm gonna be a good mentor, and I'm just gonna teach you all the right ways. It's like I feel like that would
and dies
be,
at the
like
end.
that'd be a good
Dies
story.
at the end.
He's like, I'm
Like,
gonna
I feel
actually
like-
be your second
Yeah,
dad.
I mean, like, I feel like the only way that story would go somewhere is if actually Toby died, and I don't want to see that. To be honest, I don't want to see Toby die.
Well,
So,
they
like,
kept him alive for a
it's either
reason.
gonna be like it's gonna be like super optimistic, like because if you lead him into the Miles Morales route, it's gonna be like super optimistic. Like if you want to see him train Miles, like it's going to be like super optimistic. It's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna go through the phases of Spider-Man, like in a good way and a good like dynamic here,
Mhm.
and then I'm going to die, and then you have to do whatever's left. Like, I
Yes,
feel like
you
that's
would
the only way,
rather
like,
you rather have
rather
Toby
just
have a
leave
good
him
ending,
not-
right? Yeah.
yeah, I'd rather just like separate that, like make sure Toby ends on a good note, leave him there. If you want to put him in multiverse stuff as cameos and like that would be great.
Mhm.
That would be fun to watch, but I don't want to see him like I feel like he's in a good place where there's a lot of closure and there's still like a lot, even though we don't know much about how he is right now, we just know that he's in a good place, and I feel like that's a good way to leave him off.
Cool.
For
So
Andrew, I feel like it's completely different because Andrew's not in a good place at all. Like if anything, he's in worse case now than he was when we left him in The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Mhm.
I feel like if we had him go against more villains, I feel like that would be, I guess it would be better for Spider-Man because that's what like it was the films were good at. But I really want to see more Peter Parker stuff from him, especially because they leaned on the fact that like I didn't have much Peter Parker stuff to deal with because of the whole Spider-Man thing. Like I really want them to dive into more Peter Parker stuff because they have a rare case where they really utilized his parents. Like they actually used what's his name, Richard Parker.
Yep.
Like
Yes.
they really
And
used
like how he made the spider.
yeah, like they actually used Peter Parker's
I-
parents, and that's something that like you don't.
I don't
don't
like
see-
that plot point in the Amazing Spider-Man. If I can be honest with you,
As a Spider-Man
No,
fan,
they-
as a Spider-Man fan, I understand it, but like it's an event. Like in the eyes of a Spider-Man fan,
It just makes it
I
different.
understand why
It just makes it different.
yeah, that's
Sure.
that's all I'm saying. It's like you have a different advantage. Like there are 3 Spider-Man. I do not want to say the same. I do not want to see the same shit from all 3 of them. That like each one of them has to have their own thing, and I feel like Andrew Garfield's like because they try to go into more Peter Parker. Like I feel like they can go into more Peter Parker stuff, but even though like you kind of left it off with him failing at being Peter Parker and him succeeding as Spider-Man, I kind of want to see the reverse there where like he learns what it really means to be like not to have 2 lives but to have one, instead of it being Tom's case where he kind of leaned into at the end of Spider-Man No Way Home. Like Tom he purposefully said, fuck you, I'm gonna take 2 lives, I'm gonna separate both of them, and that's it. Like I really don't want that like to happen to Andrew Garfield, especially because like instead of it it seems like from this perspective, he chose purposely to cut off Peter Parker and only be Spider-Man. And I'd rather him like lead more into the Peter Parker side, I guess.
Yeah, because I feel like a good art, like it's also ironic that you say that because a lot of the criticism for not Andrew specifically, but the way they wrote Peter Parker and like the Phasmverse is that it's less Peter Parker and more it's like it's better writing for Spider-Man and less for Peter Parker. Like Andrew Garfield is like way too cool to be Peter Parker, but he's perfect to be Spider-Man, you know? So I do agree. I feel like expanding his Peter Parker side more would be great.
Yeah, I'd say like I'm definitely probably like a controversial Spider-Man fan because like you're never like sure I know people would definitely love to see more Spider-Man out of like Spider-Man in action out of Andrew Garfield because it was amazing. Like in the Amazing Spider-Man, those are some of my favorite action sequences ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like his fight with Electro, that was incredible. But like in terms of story, like they have a different advantage. Like and because they lean into that route of Peter Parker and his parents, don't regret it, move on with it. Like don't regret that decision. Don't go back on it. Fix it, change it in the way that makes it better. Like don't just say we regret that, I'm sorry, start over again. Like I want them to move forward with that.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. And Grim, what would you want to see out of Andrew and Tobey Spider-Man? Awesome. It's such a riveting story what you're telling me right now.
Hello?
Yep.
No, it's because my internet keeps cutting down, so I'm switching between phone and computer.
There you
go. Well, first thing is my homie asked to promote real quick. So on my own by Lasso 1K, should listen to that. But personally, I just don't feel like they should come back. And the reason being is because it's just like I feel like Tobey's character and Andrew's character got mixed up in No Way Home because it's like yeah, I'm glad Tobey's matured and all of that, but I would have preferred to see like sort of like what Lewis said, where he trains Miles Morales, but for that I feel like he should be a little grumpier, but he's just too happy about everything, and it makes no like holdback to story. It's just straight out just him teaching Miles Morales.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's no way that you can make a good story. Like, there's no way you can continue a good story. Like, if you're already leaving it as a good ending, there's no way you can come back unless you make something tragic out of it.
Exactly. Like, if it was Andrew, if it was Andrew that was older, that'd make more sense because he's already becoming slightly more miserable. He's already, like, doubting himself. So in a few years from now, he'd probably a grumpy older man. So him training Miles, it's like, oh, I don't want to train you, and like you shouldn't be Spider-Man. Nobody should have ever been Spider-Man. And then like somehow Miles convincing Andrew, like, hey, look, like the world needs saving, and if you're not gonna do it, I'll do it. But again, Andrew's too young for all that, so it just left too much open because they mixed both of the characters up at the end, and they just instantly cut the possibilities for anything. First of all, Tobey's immortal. Like he got stabbed through the back multiple times, and it's just fine. And he's also just happy about.
Dude, he's got back problems, man. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't think you saw
his back crack. He got his back crack and started whooping ass. What the fuck are you talking about?
Dude, but that's so. Do you know how funny that is? That's like.
He said, "Let me help your back real quick," and he started doing flips in the air. What the fuck?
Dude, do you know how funny that is? That's like your grandpa cracks his back and he's like, all right, I guess I gotta bring out the old whippersnapper, and he just starts kicking ass. That's so cool.
He starts fucking dunking on you, and he just dunks on you. That's what happened.
Imagine your grandpa just becomes Spider-Man and dunks your ass. Anyways.
Yeah, but so it's just like they made Tobey like too perfect of an ending. So at the end, I just see him being happy. Literally, he's the one person to accomplish the game at 100% with all the fucking trophies. He's just living life, man, with a happy grin. But then that just makes no story for him. And then for Andrew, it's like, okay, sure, there's more that could be told, especially if you do that whole he starts to get grumpier and shit goes down, and instead of him becoming happy or completed, he starts to become a grumpy old man. And then that's when Miles Morales comes in, and he's like, all right, you know what? maybe this is my ticket to go back to happiness. Maybe this is my ticket. But the problem is they already made him where even in his toughest time, he's already happy and cracking jokes and saying like, yo, we're family instantly and connect. Like it's just, they already cut that down. So it's just like,
so my question to you is then, here's my question to you then. My question to you is, do you think we should see Tobey Spider-Man again, or do you feel like Lewis and Ralph that he shouldn't be touched?
I feel like if we will see him again, it should be for, again, what everybody's been desiring, which is a live action like Into the Spider-Verse, where it's something where there's a bigger threat and they need all the Spider-Mans they could get. That way you can see like Tobey come back still happy and like, you know, like life is great, life is good, red bottom jeans on, shit. But other than that, I feel like Tobey should not be touched because he's already like
he's got a happy ending, bro. Leave him be.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he got nothing. Like he got everything.
Like you really trying to mess this man up? This man has went through what is he, like 40 now? Let him be.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah, exactly.
Most likely 40.
Like,
let him have his happy ending.
Exactly. Like if you're gonna like ruin his life, it's just like don't touch him. But for Andrew, like,
if you're gonna ruin his life, just don't.
What's it called? Like Andrew has possibilities. He's still sort of young, so it's like he can't be too much of a mentor figure because you still need to see him develop. Especially since
he's like 26 or something like that. He's not that much.
Yeah, like Chasm. I'm not gonna lie, Chasm wasn't my favorite like Spider-Man movies, especially because I'm a bigger fan of like the connection of Peter and Spider-Man. How you have to know both roles, and personally, the way that he just wasn't Peter at all, just didn't connect for me. Yeah. So I feel like you need to develop him more if you want him back. If you want to see him in action, you have to develop him as a person. You have to show that, like, you know how he started crying in No Way Home for after saving MJ. Like, it feels like that crying was needed in the actual movies for him, not in the fucking in No Way Home. Like in his actual movies, like he needed to grieve.
This so you're telling me like this growth needs to happen in a movie that centers more on Andrew.
Yeah, like this deserved this deserved his like own film. Like like it seems like they're trying to cut off closure, or like trying to do a shortcut of closure for him.
Yeah, exactly. It's like he had to grieve, but they didn't want to. Well, they couldn't touch him ever again, so they gave him a quick cameo so he could quickly grieve and then end him. But I mean, if you're bringing him back, if that's a possibility, then it should be touched upon that grief. It should be looked at because, again, someone who's studying psychology, it's like the character development always shows. No matter what, there's always going to be signs of whatever's going in your mind, whatever happens to you. So it's just the fact that they just brushed it over and tazzed him and went to the next villain, and then over here he just cried. But this isn't his movie, so they couldn't touch more on it.
There was an inconsistency, I think, in Spider-Man 2. I guess it's sort of weird, right? In Spider-Man 2, when Gwen Stacy dies, right after that, I think there's like a time skip, right? Am I wrong?
Yeah.
There's a time skip, which is kind of weird. Like, I don't think you should have a time skip, especially because right now Andrew at that part in the movie was going through probably the roughest emotional moment of his life besides the death of like Uncle Ben, and they just sort of time skip over it, and they're just like, oh, I'm okay again, time to fight this rhino motherfucker, you know, like it's not great. And I feel like if they were to do something with Andrew, they should definitely explore something in between that time skip of like time. Even I think it was like only what, like 4 months, 3 months.
Yeah, because it doesn't even seem like they're trying to laugh.
No, it was 6.
It was 6 months.
It was like 6 months.
There's something.
It was 6 months of like him.
You can write a story
of him grieving not being Spider-Man.
There's a story in between those 6 months that you can talk about. It doesn't have to be jam-packed of action. It just has to be something going towards the soul of Peter Parker, which I would actually want to see.
That's a good point. But however, in the movie, they're like, "Oh, I was not Spider-Man in those 6 months. I was too sad to be
Spider-Man." Like he just took a break.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I feel like having a story to focus on. Yeah, of course you need to include Spider-Man, but I feel like having a story to focus on Andrew's Peter Parker, which is something that everyone in the franchise or everyone in the fandom thinks that he is lacking in.
or even the moments, like they could have done a time skip and it still could have worked, because if they skipped to the moment right before he took the mantle of Spider-Man again, would hit so hard. Looking at him, seeing the costume, seeing her death, and just going back and forth whether he really wants to do that. Is that the destiny, and is that the responsibility that he's willing to take, and him fighting over it and over, and then at the end he's like, you know what, this is what I have to do, because it's not about me, it's about the people. And then you see him beat Rhino's ass, and that's how you feel Spider-Man. That's how you tell.
Like, all they
that's
needed
a
was that
good
one
ass
scene.
story.
Yeah.
Like that's all
But
you like.
it skipped over. So
Boys, I think it is suffice to say that we are having a lot of expectations and a lot of hopeful ideas for what's coming next for Spider-Man, whether it be Tom, Toby, or Andrew. I just can't wait for it. I think that they have a lot to work with Spider-Man, and there's just probably an infinite number of possibilities of what they can do with these three actors and these three franchises. So I honestly can't wait for that. So
hey man, I'm hoping they do a live action Spider-Verse.
fair. I would like to
Yeah,
see a live action Spider-Verse.
I think everyone's hoping for that.
My internet needs to stop. But I really hope they do a live action Spider-Verse, because it's like, sure, the Sony one was amazing. I really loved it, but let's be honest, the numbers always increase when it's live action, because people rather see humans than cartoons, as they would say. So I feel like they need to do a live action Spider-Verse, just show these characters in
That
the
for
light.
one is a very
and
big
do
shame.
justice.
I agree with you. I just find it to be a shame
Dude,
sometimes, because that movie.
Yeah,
how sick would it be if like
interesting.
Across the Spider-Verse Part 2 like becomes live action, like turns into like live action halfway through?
I need to be casted
That'd
as
be
Miguel
fucking
O'Hara.
sick.
That's final. That's all I know.
But dude, what about
That'd be fucking sick.
you can only
bro.
have one role, man. You can't be taking this cosmic fruitcake for yourself, man.
Hey man,
Listen,
Depends on what
speaking
contract
of the
does.
multiverse, guys, let's talk about what the hell is happening with Multiverse of Madness, because it is only a couple months away, and there is already a lot of discussion as to what this movie can pertain, not only for Doctor Strange character, but for the entire MCU moving forward after that.
There's a lot going for this movie.
So,
I
by
need
the
to
way,
explain a lot.
I just want to let you guys know, the audience, we are not talking about any leaks. I know there are leaks out there. I've seen them. We're not going to talk about it. We're going to talk about things that we would want to see out of this, because this film is shaping up to be basically including characters from different franchises that were owned by different companies, bringing them into the MCU. So with that, I want to talk about the potential return of the X-Men through this movie, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts about that.
Can I start on this one?
I want you to talk this whole time. Go for it.
It's because personally, it's a hard choice, because it's the choice between Hugh Jackman coming back for Ryan Reynolds. It's not even for anybody else. For Ryan Reynolds, as they combine the Deadpool / X-Men universe into the MCU, and then him already being old, so it's like you can't really tell new stories with him. It's especially after Logan, since Logan is sort of the future of him, where he dies, but you can still bring him a little younger. But it's just still like that whole thing of whether we really want Hugh Jackman back, because Ryan Reynolds wants Hugh Jackman. He's not giving up until he gets Hugh Jackman. And so if we do bring Hugh Jackman into the MCU, like, what can we tell with that character that hasn't been told? What can we create newly for him to keep him active in today's year, even though most people want a young Wolverine so that they could tell the stories in the MCU way? So it's a lot of pressure that this movie has, especially with that. And especially with Raph Boner, since he's technically Quicksilver in that X-Men universe, but here he's just some random dude who got used. So
Dude,
that
I almost forgot who that was, and you were start talking about Boner. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you on?
Yeah, because it was like such a small role, but it made a big boom. Like Raph Boner was a big, like, oh shit, we got Quicksilver. Oh shit, we got a Boner joke.
Dude.
We got cooked so hard.
So I actually want to talk about this myself, and like I actually want to talk about Hugh Jackman. So, um, I think something that I looked at when I was looking at other X-Men films with Hugh Jackman in them as Wolverine, there was always such a big focus with him and Wolverine as a character that I personally do not expect him to return, and I'm kind of okay with that because we sort of got his triumphant ending in Logan, and I'm okay with how his character ended, and I wouldn't mind not seeing his character until a little later, maybe a couple of years down the line, because I also agree that I do not want to see him be replaced by another actor because I don't see anyone else playing Wolverine like Hugh Jackman did. But other characters I wouldn't mind seeing that didn't really get as much spotlight in other X-Men movies and should have gotten more development was Rogue. I'd love to see Rogue. I want to see Nightcrawler again. I basically want to see the core X-Men team just come back and just actually have some good characterization in them because, like, those old X-Men films do not do them justice, especially Storm. Storm needs to have a character, man. Oh my god. Her character is not existent in the other X-Men movies, and it's such a shame because in the comics, she is such a dope character, and she needs to be represented better. Ah, damn. But besides those Fox characters, there is other characters that we have to talk about. I believe it's also in this movie we can also be talking about not only just multiversal threats, but we're also talking about like celestial threats. Eternals coming back in this movie. I have no idea if that's really a possibility. It would be cool though.
I don't think so.
After what had happened with the actual Eternals movie, I would love to see some type of redemption for them, but that's probably not going to happen until later down the line when Celestials become a big plot point for the MCU as a whole.
Yeah, I would expect to see them like probably like after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That's probably like earliest.
Yeah. So another thing that we have to talk about as well is are you guys okay to talk about rumors? Because it's not necessarily confirmed, but it is something that we can talk about.
Go ahead.
Okay, cool.
Wait, Lewis hasn't said his piece on this though.
Oh, that's right. Lewis, what do you think about having Fox characters return?
So it really depends on what Fox characters you had, because if you're talking about just the mainline movies, it's gonna be really complex on when they're going to get them, how you're going to fit them into the MCU. It will be really nice to see them. I grew up watching the original X-Men movies. I love them all the way out. Their newer ones were decent. I want to say I love them, but it's pretty good. I think it's a pretty good idea trying to bring them in and see. It really depends on what type of role are they really playing. And going on to the Hugh Jackman thing, is that I just really want him to see the character. I think he did the character justice and really did the character pretty good. And we have to see him in the suit. I think if we're going to have him back, he just has to be in the suit and doesn't need to have a line in the movie. Just him in the suit, and he leaves.
I think that would also be very dissatisfactory towards his character. I wouldn't, if they were to include Hugh Jackman, I don't think I would be satisfied just seeing him in the suit for only a second. You know?
Well, you have to remember, people went crazy when on I think his second movie, The Wolverine. They showed the suit, people went crazy, and we never saw the suit again.
True.
Yeah, that was disappointing.
And like, I think pretty sure people went crazy for it. Like, oh, he's actually gonna have the suit, and never saw the suit.
Yeah, they actually showed the suit in a suitcase. It's just like he's ready for it,
and doesn't show it.
There's so much to tell
if we're
for
taking him
Wolverine.
out of that point. Yeah,
There's so much to tell like for his backstory, but like they never actually got to it.
Yeah.
Like they decided to make it more of a universe thing instead of like just him.
Yeah. It's unfortunate.
That's what I was saying. Like, it really depends on when are they pulling these characters out. Like we said about the villains for Spider-Man. Like, when are they pulling them out? Why they're pulling them out? And really sees like how they're going to use them in the story aspect of it,
Sure.
and how will it finish their story. Like, out of all, to make it all sense, it might be the younger versions of the characters, and we actually finish their arc because Dark Phoenix was a decent movie.
Whoa.
Oh,
I'm being way too
that's
nice for
generous.
it.
That's generous.
It is pretty. It's really generous. I don't know what you're talking about. It's being really generous. I'm just not trying to get sued.
Oh my god.
It's being really
Lewis,
generous. I don't know
I
why
didn't know
you
you were
wanted
about
me all
to
this
spit
side
a
with this.
hot take, man.
It's not.
That was the
It's
most
being
controversial thing we've said all day.
Yeah, yes, it is.
Okay.
It's an okay movie. Them just coming back to
Wrong.
finish their arc will be the best thing that it could happen. Be the best thing to happen for them and letting them finish what they had and their own vision.
Sure.
And seeing Hugh Jackman come in more in the suit and fight a little bit.
Okay. So I guess that's what we would want from the Fox character specifically. But now I sort of want to talk about the implications of so you guys are okay with talking about rumors. There are rumors talking about that Peggy Carter's Captain America might appear in this movie. I don't know how true those are now that we see America Chavez in the trailers. Maybe if it's like her what if version, right? Where she's like fighting with the Guardians of the Multiverse. I think that would be pretty cool.
The only reason why that came about is mainly because we see evil Doctor Strange at the end, the Dark Sorcerer. And the thing is, that was in What If, so I'm pretty sure people are like saying, oh, this is the What If stories, but in like live action, and they'll probably bring back some other characters and stuff like that. Personally, seeing what happened with No Way Home, I'd rather not discuss it because I feel like at the end of the day, it might all become true, and then guess what? The movie won't be as good as it should be. But I do hope that they don't touch that. I hope that they only touch the Dark Sorcerer and then they keep it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if they're gonna bring in the other characters, like the other multiverse characters, it better be for like a build-up type movie. Like
it should be a bigger event, right? Like you guys said,
it should be like
with
it
Tobey
should be like an
Tobey
Endgame level
Maguire's
event.
Spider-Man, it should be like Secret Wars where everyone from every chasm of the multiverse should be fighting against one force. I agree with that. I think that makes a lot of sense. Also, I think this movie is also having a lot of focus for Doctor Strange as a character himself. There's a lot of focus on his love interest. I forgot her name. What is her name?
Christine.
Sorry?
Christine.
Christine, right. Christine. And there's a lot of focus on it. And I think it's great because Doctor Strange so far, besides his solo movie, has been used as a plot device. And it kind of sucks because he's such a cool character. And to be used as sort of like a MacGuffin to either end the conflict or find a way to stop the conflict is kind of crazy. But I understand. Writers have to do a certain thing when they have a character as powerful as Doctor Strange that can do sort of all these MacGuffins. They have to write him a certain way, which is why in No Way Home, he sort of got destroyed by the power of geometry and we never saw him again until the final act. It's crazy. I would like to see this movie, and because it's also directed by Sam Raimi, Sam Raimi does a good job at characterizing his main character and sort of giving him a good, full, complete arc. So yeah, I'm excited to see how Doctor Strange as a character goes through this movie and sort of changes as a person. And yeah, that's what I'm excited for, at least for me. I think another thing I want to talk about with you, and this is sort of like, this is not rumors, this is sort of just speculation and sort of a little fun on our part. What alternate version of characters do you want to see come into this movie? Because everyone is like hyping up that, saying like, oh, there's going to be tons of different multiversal characters coming in. What are your specific version of characters that you would like to see?
The Fantastic Four, the early version.
Well, they're having their
Not
own solo
the-
movie, so pick another one.
The
No,
so,
like,
oh, so we're not doing-
like you'd want to see the OG.
The OG ones.
Well, I think they wouldn't do that because they are having their own solo movie. So I'm pretty sure the Fantastic Four is.
But they're not sure
That would
when
be
they're
misleading.
coming out.
That would be misleading.
That
Yeah.
is true as well.
So what would
It's like,
be
oh,
anything
another
besides the
Fantastic
Fantastic
Four.
Four?
Shit.
So
Then-
besides the Fantastic Four, Lewis, what would be another, like, I guess, group or character you would want to see?
Group of characters. I know they might not do the X-Men. They probably do the X-Men, but they're not doing the Defenders again. Later on.
That's a big decision that they have to put their, they have to put their foot down on that one. Like, they have to literally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big decision that they cannot take back.
But I don't know, like, what other groups they could bring in besides the X-Men or the Fantastic Four.
Well, it
'cause those
doesn't
are,
have
like,
to be
one of the
groups. It
big
can
ones.
be
Young
it can be
Avengers.
characters. Yeah.
The Young Avengers. We already have America Chavez, and we already were shown the early reincarnations of Speed and Wiccan. We also have Eli Bradley in
Yeah.
Winter Soldier, Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Soldier.
So we already have the big chunk of the important members of the team. So I hope that somehow with this movie they finally say all right, you kids, you need to work together, form a team because there's a threat that's coming and I need your help. Obviously, Doctor Strange, and you need to form something because you are the guys that are gonna hold the future. And bam.
Personally, for me, so as a kid, I grew up on sort of like the early 2000s Marvel movies that weren't Spider-Man. Like, I'd watch the old Blade, I'd watch Ghost Rider, and I think I would love to see Nicolas Cage come back as Ghost Rider. That, for me, would be peak. I don't know how they would do it. I don't know what specific reason why they would need to do it. I would just find it very cool to have him in the movie. Because I despite how, looking back at it, the movies were really just not up to par, I enjoyed them as a kid, and I enjoyed Nicolas Cage as Ghost Rider.
Nicolas Cage was everything.
Ralph, what about you, man?
I would cry if I see Ben Affleck's Daredevil in this movie.
That would be so funny. Because the guy's like, guess what? Matt Murdock is actually just a normal lawyer, and this is our Daredevil for the MCU. That would be great. I wouldn't personally like it, but I feel like for comedic purposes, that'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, they better take that shit back quick.
Yeah.
Other characters I don't really know. Like, I feel like if you erase everything after X-Men Apocalypse, I think it was all great. Like X-Men Days of Future Past for me was that's my favorite X-Men movie. Like, if they bring in, I guess, James McAvoy or Eric Fassbender, Michael Fassbender as Magneto, I feel like those characters specifically, that'd be really cool to bring in the MCU.
Yeah, I would like
And plus,
to see them back.
they're relatively young.
Yeah, I think
They're relatively young,
Mhm.
so it would be pretty nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about specifically from the X-Men franchise, having Charles and Magneto back would just be so great. I don't know. Besides Wolverine being my favorite X-Men, as per most people, I think if you're talking about McAvoy and God, I keep forgetting these actors' names. Fassbender. Talking about McAvoy and Fassbender, their chemistry on the older X-Men movies were amazing. And it's the same for the old obviously Professor X and Magneto, but these two are younger, they have more potential to stay in longer movies. I see them coming over more than I see the other two. But we'll see. In the end, in May 2022, everything will be revealed in Doctor Strange. But I guess
You say X-Men's coming in late 2020 and in the late 2020s.
I have no idea. I
said it's gonna be,
have no expectation for it.
He said it's gonna come probably Phase 5 or something. It's gonna come pretty late.
Listen, I just want to get through Phase 4. I don't want to worry about that yet.
That's so funny though. We're already you think man, let's get through Phase 4, but you realize how many projects we've already been through in Phase 4.
Yeah, I mean, I just
In
want it
one
to be
year.
over.
That's crazy.
Low key, I just want it to be over. Phase 4 has, I think, but it's also weird with how we'll talk about that later. But Phase
Another
4
good
definitely
episode.
has like a very weird sort of content issue that we can talk about. The last thing I want to talk about before we wrap up the podcast is sort of like, what do you guys think the story is gonna be? Like, obviously, due to the meddling of Strange and his shenanigans with the multiverse, things are tearing apart, and it's obviously a quest in order to like restore the multiverse to some level of normalcy. But like, I don't know. What do you guys think other attributes of the story is gonna be? Because we know America Chavez is going to be
Bro,
there.
getting like, oh wait, you're talking about just like pure
Like plot, pure plot,
of Multiverse of Madness or like of the MCU?
Multiverse of Madness.
Oh, okay, then I feel like King is gonna find his way in there.
You think so?
Yeah.
I feel like he's gonna find his way in there too, because in one of the trailers, or in the trailer, because I think we only have one, there is like a TVA door behind in some of the backgrounds. So I feel like Kang will definitely be a part of this movie, or at least not him, but the TVA themselves would also be a part of it. Which also stands to reason that Loki might also appear. That would be cool, but I'm not biting my tongue on that.
These types of movies, like they have, like these types of movies, like Doctor Strange too, and like No Way Home. Like the more they release stuff like this, and like the more people talk about it, the more I have to think like, man, this has got to be like 2.5 hour, like 2.5 hour to 3 hour movie. Like if this is
Yeah.
anything short of like 2 hours, it's screwed.
See,
Like-
here's the thing, and like we can talk about this in like these type of movies where they have like this big multiversal characters have so much expectation to bring in almost nearly everything, right? Like
And give them justice too, like
in
to
No Way
actually
Home.
maintain the character.
Yeah, in No Way Home, they thought that like the X-Men, like the Fantastic Four, everyone was going to appear in No Way Home, and it's gonna be like the end game of Phase 4. And sure, I feel like it was the end game of Spider-Man, like it's a great end to his trilogy, but that's not what we got. And now a lot of people are writing hope on the fact that Doctor Strange might be that end game level type thing, and I think it's a problem to have that expectation, because if you believe all these multiversal stories are going to be like as big as Endgame and as big as like No Way Home, then it's setting you to fail to see the true purpose of these movies, is that they're trying to bring some characters in bit by bit and give them justice. Yeah. Oh, don't clap just yet. I'll wait. Oh no. I actually can't hear you guys. Hello.
To continue what we were talking about, I feel it's gonna be more of a House of M type of story. Is that
Do you think
I
so?
really want to believe that. I really want to believe that Scarlet Witch, Wanda. It's really gonna be.
I want to see more magic
villains of
shit
this
though.
movie.
You know what I mean?
I do want to
Yeah.
see more magic shit.
It's going. I feel it's gonna be her
The
villain story.
multiverse is cool and all, but I want Doctor Strange magic shit.
I also
like,
want
yeah.
Doctor Strange magic shit.
It's been 6 years, bro.
It has.
What it- no,
Doctor
what
Strange
if-
came out, and they released so like in that first movie. There's so much information that you get, and like for this sequel, nobody's talking about it. It's like because of
No,
like
but listen,
Multiverse of Madness,
what
obviously.
if in the trailer they showed a part like mixed? So what if the Wanda thing, right, where he goes to meet up with Wanda? What if that's after he met up with the evil Doctor Strange, and they're talking about how this Doctor Strange is like threatening all of the multiverse, and considering that Kang, like you guys said, is now the actual Kang, not this goofy ass motherfucker that appeared in the show.
I
Like,
love
the
him.
actual Kang.
No, like the
is
Conqueror.
coming.
The Conqueror.
Exactly, the Conqueror. Not Kang Goofy, is Kang the Conqueror.
Dude,
Not that he's coming.
Kang, from the show, he was literally just the funky Kang. He's like, nah, man, chill.
He's like,
all
I'm
good.
bored as fuck.
That's
Let's get it.
Goofy Kang. I don't
Hey,
like him.
I'm
I like
bored. Let's do it.
the Conqueror.
I love
like
him.
the
I
one
love.
motherfucker-
I honestly did love him. I did love him.
No, I didn't. I like the
I didn't
Kang
love him as,
that
like-
hangs out with Doctor Doom and says we're gonna fuck up each other
Wait.
and the world. Like I love that shit. Give me that villainous shit. I don't
Well, you
want a
remember, this is
comedian. I want
that
want
menacing.
evil.
well, you have to remember,
want
this is the one
God.
who it's the who remains. This is the the person who remains.
remains.
I don't know.
Dr. Seuss, the who
He-
remains.
Yeah.
1 hat, 2 hat, 3 hat.
Yeah, so
No, but,
so it's supposed to be him, not really King. It's just a variant of King.
I like how
yeah,
they,
but
they,
he's
they,
dead.
they I like how
He's
they
dead.
had to say that though. Like they
He's dead.
really did have
The
to say
real
that.
Kang is here now, and so hopefully the dark Doctor Strange makes Kang appear, and there's like 2 big bads, and then Doctor Strange is like, all right, I'm gonna need Wanda, I'm gonna need Harkness, because she's having her own thing, so maybe she becomes good or something. You never know. And I'm gonna need some other magicians. We're doing magic. This is a magic show. We're gonna fucking refix this shit because I ruined the multiverse because of stupid Peter Parker, who I don't know is Peter Parker.
I would
It
love.
would be-
Hold up.
It got his magic
I
hands
would-
by geometry.
Hold on. I would love to see this as I don't know if I don't know, does Marvel have a magic only based team that's like specifically
Yeah, it does. There's a team with Blade, Ghost Rider.
But do you know the name? Do we know the name?
I could look it up. I think because what's it called? I forgot.
Because
what it was.
what this is building
I
up to
remember
me,
reading
it
about
feels
them.
like in DC there is this thing called the Dark Justice League, where it's literally just the
definitely
Dark Justice
dark.
League's
Yeah.
best like magic users, and it's really cool. The stories they have is amazing. There is a animated movie about some of them. You really go take a look at it. It's really good. So yeah, I feel like it's sort of building up to be this magical Avengers type thing, which is pretty cool. I really like it, especially with America Chavez, which I read after the trailer that she has the power to give like star portals. Am I right? Is that correct? I don't know.
So the team is the Midnight Suns.
Yeah, the Midnight Suns. There you go.
There you
That's
go.
the magic
The
group,
Midnight
and they
Suns.
are fucking fantastic.
I feel like this movie is gonna bring together a lot of already existing and pre-established magic-based characters and a lot of new ones. We just don't know what they are, and I am super excited for it. I feel like this movie, although it's not Spider-Man, I feel like it's definitely going to appease the people who love to see the magical and mystical side of Marvel, and I'm all for it.
It was so cool, and it feels like we've kind of forgot. And it didn't help that like Doctor Strange got beat by geometry.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, boys. I think that is going to be a wrap for today. Thank you guys for coming along once again. And to everyone listening at home, you have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Make sure you eat. Don't forget to drink water. Take care of yourself. Have a great night, everybody.